Organi. Hello. I'm your host and producer of Black Fire Rising, Terry Emeka Thomas. You know, one of the things that's dear to me is my love and appreciation for Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism began in 1900 when Henry Sylvester Williams gathered the first gathering of black intellects in response to the Berlin Conference, the conference that Europeans split up Africa and partitioned it, named those names and boundaries, and attacked Africa after hundreds of years of slave trade, using colonialism as a part and parcel to the further subjugation of Africa. Henry Sylvester Williams started the first modern Pan-African movement. Deeper still, what is Pan-Africanism? It is the reunification or the unification of African people and descendants of African people worldwide for the uplift of Africa and the stabilization of the continent. Black Fire Rising takes on the position that ours is a Pan-African broadcast. We're here today at the Bole restaurant, an Ethiopian restaurant. Because when you think Pan-African, we have to think in terms of worldwide. I had the great privilege of traveling to Ethiopia with our featured guest and president and keynote speaker, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Dr. Jeffries is out of New York. He chaired the Black Studies Department at City College of New York for over 20 years. He is the premier, iconic Black Studies professor in the Afrocentric world. I got a chance to know Dr. Jeffries as we traveled everywhere from Lake Tana to the ancient city of Aksum. That's A-X-U-M, Aksum. Google it, look it up. Aksum succeeded Egypt in grandeur and development. So Dr. Jeffries is one of the people that I would elicit to help with Georgia House Bill 481, which stipulates the teaching of black history from an African-centered perspective, as well as Native American history, Latino history, women's history, and the Jewish Holocaust, all from their perspectives of being oppressed, what I call or interpret as the pedagogy of the oppressed. So he's here tonight to speak for Wadu, World African Diaspora Union, of which I belong. And this is going to be a real treat because Dr. Jeffrey holds no punches. He let the oppressor know exactly what's going on. And I think, in a Pan-African sense, he is the premier black intellect in the country, on the level of Dr. Ben, as well as Cheikh Anta Diop. He's visited Africa many times, and I just was honored to be a part of Wadu in 2010 when we traveled to meet with the African Union and discuss the idea of Wadu, connecting with the African Union to be a part of the African Union here in the U.S. because Pan-Africanism is worldwide. Keep that in mind. It's the worldwide unification of people of African descent throughout the diaspora. Hence, World African Diaspora Union. So sit back as we take in the evening and revolutionize your thoughts.
Around what we refer to as our various brands of Christianity, people were finding a light out of the dehumanizing process. White folks had worked up a total war against black people in Southern Africa. We think that we did a good job of waking up black America and then having Randall Robertson and others institute the boycott. Actually, Trans-Africa comes out of the struggle my group of Africans waged to fight the war against us. That's why you have to have sophistication as you organize. You have to have an assessment of what you're dealing with. You have to have an analysis that you can deal with. You're busy eating. What is that? What are you saying? You can tell me what it is. Oh, okay. She wants me to deal with Wadu. That, you know, that'll come in hour 5 of the presentation. See, that's what he has done. I don't know whether the U.S. government trained him to have everything focused around him. So we want to get to this Wadu thing. What are we going to do with Wadu and how are we going to work with mentally? First thing is to keep an eye on it. But you have to understand that the World African Diaspora Union could not be a playground for mentally. It could not be a one-man show. It should never have been conceived in his mind that way. It's a formulation that we have to put in place. Otherwise, we're not going to survive on this planet. So we'll get to Wadu, and we'll get to the legacy projects of the African Union. But the setup that you have to understand is that all that you see, you can't understand because you do not have the systems analysis to do it. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing said that in reference to the mind. Her teacher, Nellie Fuller, told her that if you cannot put white supremacy in the equation, everything else you think you know will be a confusion.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm trying to tell you, and I'm saying it loud and black and proud, that if you cannot put a systems analysis in your living on this planet and working with others to try to move ahead, if you cannot put a systems analysis in place, anything else you do will be meaningless.
Right.
You can have all the marches you want. You can have all the other things with demands for jobs you want. But if you can't put a system analysis in place, you're not going to go anywhere. Because life is systems. Life is systems. Every system has 3 components. Now I'm going to go into the master teacher. All this other talk was just introduction. But what I forgot to say was when I went to Europe is when I met Africa. And what did you mean, Dr. Day? I had one Ghanaian African at Lafayette College, and the head of philosophy told me to take care of him. I almost didn't graduate college because I was taking care of him. Because the white professor of philosophy saw me taking care of this brother and standing up for him, and he prepared a trap to destroy me. Luckily, my thing is so correct, I was able to graduate. The brother was able to graduate. I won a fellowship to go to study in Europe, Rotary International Fellowship. They wanted the best student from New Jersey. I happen to be the best student at Lafayette College from New Jersey. I took the year off from the law school to go to Europe, and that's the best thing I ever did, because that's when I met Mother Africa. How did you meet Mother Africa, Jeffries? Because the mind of Africa was being messed over. Just as the mind of the enslaved African is where it is because it's messed over. The mind in South Africa was being messed over. I learned that. South African whites from the Dutch persuasion were at total war against the Africans.
That's right.
Total war. They still are. And here we have the image of a Nelson Mandela coming out of prison. It was a mirage.
Right.
Here we have the image of even Nelson cannot raise the image of Steve Biko the way it should be raised.
Good.
Because they came from different ethnic groups, they came from different ideological persuasions. Steve Biko was influenced by Malcolm X and black nationalism and Pan-Africanism. Nelson was influenced by Marxism. The ANC allowed the revolutionary armed wing of the party to be headed by a Marxist Jew. Nothing to do with his Jewishness, but the fact that it wasn't an African. The military wing in South Africa was handled by somebody else. This mind of the Africans has been so tampered with until we begin to understand that we can't do nothing with us being the chosen. We can't redo and understand even the traditions in our churches, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So this is where I'm trying to get us to understand what Wadu's role is. It's not legacy projects. Our sister says, make sure you talk about the legacy project. We may talk about that on Sunday, or we may talk about that on Monday. Legacy projects are a mirage. One legacy project is what, Dr. Chichina? Remittances.
Volunteer.
Well, one is volunteer, cool. Okay. The other is remittances. Another is a data bank. Another is investment bank. And there's a fifth one.
That's the marketplace for the African.
Marketplace for the Africans. You think that's going to liberate Africa? You think that's going to build bonds of black people in America and the Caribbean and Brazil with Africa? But that's what has been offered us to be about. And so we should take the offer, because that's all they're offering us. But the larger thing in the new era is breaking from this type of thinking. Those minds in, and Brother Memnick wanted to say this, but his brush was too broad. He attacked everybody. The people running the AU, the people leading the African nations, the people leading these international institutions have been programmed and processed to serve the Europeans.
That's right.
You don't get a promotion, you don't get a position unless you have been certified.
That's right.
Systems analysis. You don't get a position in the black world in America unless it's certified. You don't get a president of Howard University, a president of Morehouse University, a president of Spelman, unless they've been certified. And who are the certifiers? Who are the gatekeepers? Those who are part of the Sigma Pi Phi, the Boule. That's the system. Don't look at them harshly. That's a survival institution. That's one of those bridges that's taken us this far. Jesse is a Boule. Samuel Darian Parker is a Boule. And they're the ones who decided that we agree with the Jewish community and their power and regular white folks to put Obama in the White House. Y'all ain't had nothing to do with it except to put a vote out there. The decision was made on who's going to be the candidate. That's the key decision, and you ain't in there. But your Boule brothers and sisters are in there. You don't think Sister Jarrett is in the White House because she looks good and is articulate? She's representing the Boule. We don't need to get into this now, but see, you only got me upset, so I had to cool down a little bit. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Because some of my best friends are Boule. Two of the brothers in my wedding are Boule. One is boule because he was born into it. Dr. J, what are you talking about? How come you skipping and jumping? All this shit's gonna make sense eventually. Have you ever heard of the name Hope? John Hope?
Oh, yeah. John Hope.
See? That's the Negro. John Hope Franklin. Yes. John Hope Franklin. And who was he? The greatest Negro historian. He didn't deal with Africa.
Oh.
He didn't deal with Pan-Africa. He dealt with our Negro history.
Okay.
He was a brilliant man. He comes out of struggle. His family was part of the Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, when it was burned down. And white folks said, no matter how much money you got, how many banks you got, hotels you got, how many oil rigs you got, we still gonna burn your shit down. And we're gonna do it in plain sight for the world to see. And then cover it up. So the story never really came out. Still hasn't been properly told. But John Hope Franklin's father was a part of that community, and he was trying to come back to it, and it delayed their coming back because of the explosion. So these historical things that I'm mentioning, you need to put in a systems analysis. That the white boy's not going to do for you. You can integrate with him, but you'll integrate at his cost. White boy is not going to give you independence so that you can rule. He's going to give you independence with strings attached. That's why I go around and Menelik made some disparaging, but he's done some research and he's done this and that. It doesn't matter a matter of doing any damn research. This is the document that all of y'all should know about, and not one of you know about. This is the PhD dissertation done by Dr. Leonard Jeffries on Africa. And have you seen the PhD of Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Asa Hilliard, Dr. Jacob Carruthers, Dr. Malana Karanga, Dr. Malefia Sante? Did any of them, Dr. Marumba Ani, did any of them actually live in Africa and study Africa and present what was happening in the nation-building process in Africa? This is subnational politics of the Ivory Coast Republic. The French had no intention of giving these nations independence.
No.
They tied strings, and they were tight strings. We're going to give you a flag, and you can run around with the flag. And so in the 60s, a dozen African nations of the French persuasion became independent. Overnight. No preparation for nationhood. The system capability wasn't in place. So these nations, so-called, were forced to submit to the French new system, which they call neo-colonialism. So we're going to have to understand that's the way white folks do. They don't give up no control. And they'll kill. But Dr. Jeffries, you have to explain yourself. I don't have to explain myself. World War I was white folks killing white folks. One of the biggest crimes against humanity was white folks killing white folks. And they did everything to kill them. Mustard gas, gassed them, bombed everything. White folks, they killed so many white folks killing each other, they had to go get black folks to end the war. Hundreds of thousands, millions of Africans was asked to come out of the people from the West Indies was asked to come out and help the British. The French created the Sénégal Tirailleurs. And they expanded it. There one famous Blaise Diagne. He was the one who pleaded with black folks to help save France. It's bleeding to death because of the Germans. And a million plus was brought in. World War I, 100 million Europeans killed or injured. And then their system collapsed because somebody was playing with the money. And then you had the Depression in the 30s. And then the monster called Hitler comes up again, and we help finance him. John Kennedy's father was interested in helping Hitler. You don't like to know the history? You got Camelot in the White House, so-called. Camelot in the White House. Any woman walking through the White House. Camelot in the White House. Jackie was from an established family. She said, you ain't even going to be able to look at me, much less have sex, unless we schedule it and we decide how extensive it's going to be, etc. That's Camelot. Close your mouth, brother. Look, you all need to get into this history. It will relieve you all of all the stuff that y'all got to worry about. Stop looking at the wives of Atlanta, or the NBA wives, or Oprah Winfrey, or Whoopi Goldberg. Get into this history. You will have something that will keep you going forever. Hitler emerges, and the white folks go into it. White on white crime, the biggest in history. They had 100 million, so now they're going to do another 100 million within less than a 20 or 30 year period. We celebrate the devastation of the Jews with the Holocaust. What about 25 million Russians killed? What about the destruction? Every European city was devastated. Firebomb. America joined the fray, and the big thing was to send 1,000 planes just to drop bombs. And here they worried about our shooting in Chicago? Or crimes in the projects? On an international scale, their system calls for the death and destruction.
Right.
If millions of people are dying in the Congo, it's because that's the system. Well, the Hutus are dealing with the Tutsis. That's the system. A traditional grievance between them might have led to some war in which they fought each other, and one side of the river was one group, and the other side was the other. They threw their spears, and once they shot their spears, that was it. They shot their load. So they might as well go on home, which is what they did. They didn't perpetuate nothing going on for days and weeks and years and multiple. You got to have a systems analysis. They're going to lay some stuff on you that this and that happened, and they're going to cover it up. Systems analysis will let you know. We need to have some smart students at Morehouse and Spelman. Of course, they can't let their professors or the president know. But they need to come up with a list of how many enslaved Africans did the founding fathers have. Each one. Jefferson had 600. Washington might have had 300. Somebody else had. In other words, that's the list that we need to know.
Definitely.
That's the numbers that we need to have so that we can pull the wool off of this thing. Helping it to be correct, because we got to survive here, but not at our expense. Like everybody gets reparations, but not you black folks. The head of England flew from England to Jamaica to tell the Jamaicans, get over it! Get over it!
That's right, he told me.
He had nerve enough to come into Jamaica with all the shootings and everything going on in Jamaica. He didn't bring no army. He just told he was a white man, protected by whiteness. Get over it! We ain't going to give you a dime on reparations. However, we'll give you $50 million if you can build a prison outside of Kingston to take your niggas from England and keep them in jail. These were criminals made in the European system, and they want to dump them back in the Caribbean. Do you know how much poison would come if this process started of bringing folks caught up in the corruption of the white world, and you bring them back into these African places? That's why I said we got to get serious. Don't get mad, get glad. Don't be sad, be prepared. When the attack came on me, that's where I went. Every school I could go to around the world. Don't be mad. And well, Dr. J, put up or shut up. Well, here it is. How many of you got the Harvard tape? How many of you know about the Harvard tape? It's on YouTube. You don't even have to buy it from me, but I have a few of them because I'm trying to raise some money to get some money to go to South Africa. But this is the Harvard tape, and what we declared in '92 at Harvard, that is not about anti-Semitism, it's about anti-Kemetism, the inability to deal with the Nile Valley. You go to their best and you don't have to worry about the rest. The black students at Harvard invited me to come up there, and I was anxious to go, but sometimes our students need the wise counsel of the elders. As soon as the Jewish students heard that I was invited to come to Harvard and they had approved a $750,000 honorarium, the Jewish students went into action. They know how to act. They immediately went to the council and said, you're going to pay this Negro our money? He shouldn't even come anywhere near Harvard. We're an institution of higher education. Black students got nervous. They voted the $750 down. So they called me all upset. I said, take it easy, take it easy. But Dr. Jeffries, they trying to mess with us. That's what they do. Ain't nothing unusual. So I told them, keep the damn invitation open. I'll pay you to come to Harvard. And they took the wise counsel. They took the wise counsel, and what they did was, I told them, don't just stand there by yourself. Organize the other students. Organize the black students in law school. Organize the female black students at Radcliffe, etc. So they organized it. And when I went up to Harvard, there was 400 black students sitting in front of me. There was 1,000 white students behind them. The place was packed. And at that same spot where I spoke, Malcolm spoke 30 years before. And you see me looking all buffed up like I've been, doing something. But that's the bulletproof vest. I got my biggest bulletproof vest there. But what you see on the stage is a Jeffries transformed by these young minds and devastating the white minds that wanted to have them devastated. With the knowledge, with the information, with the books. Now, how come this isn't going all across the airways, etc.? No, we don't necessarily need to do that. The knowledge is the thing that needs to go. You wouldn't be able to understand what was happening on that stage when you saw me there, and a light-skinned dude was next to me, handing the books out to me, in sync with me. That's my baby brother. 2 years younger than me. Light and bright. But we're from the same womb. My mother told us, you're the same. Color don't make no difference. But see, he had a problem because he was the light one. I was the dark one. I was born on January 19th. That was her father, my grandfather's birthday. So I came as a reincarnation of Edward B. Smith from Farmville, Virginia. So my brother had to suffer under that. So he decided to join me. So ever since we've been kids, we've had this fantastic relationship. He was there to take a bullet for me if anybody thought they could come up. And he's in a part of a martial arts school, an Asian African martial arts school, that's so powerful that he told me when we were having this intellectual warfare with Dr. Clark and Dr. Baird and Dr. Carruthers and Dr. King and all these great minds, Dr. Francis Wellesley, he said, Lenny, if you wish to go engage Edward I. Koch, the mayor of New York, you can do it, even though Dr. Clark said it wouldn't do no good, even though Regent Sanford, our greatest educator, said, forget him. My brother said, you can go because my aura will protect you. All right. Take him on. I told him I didn't even want to see him, Mayor Koch. He said he wanted me to come down. I said, no, you need to come up here. I got the thousands of books up here in my office. Yeah. Come up to Harlem. He said, oh, no, that would be a media event. So I said, well, I'm not interested, to be frank, in coming to see you until you're prepared to give up my pyramids. What? Yes, I want my pyramids back. We got a picture of you on a camel going around the pyramids talking about your ancestors built them thousands of years ago. He said, what? I said, yeah. We got a picture of Menachem Begin standing in front of the pyramid at the time of the peace treaty with Egypt. So nor me to give up my pyramids. What does it say? Peace pact by former foes. And there's Menachem Begin standing in front of the pyramids that his ancestors built thousands of years ago.
No.
I told Mayor Koch we want our pyramids back. He said, oh my goodness, I got me a doozy here. So he went away for a couple of days and called back from Honolulu or Hong Kong and somewhere and said, Dr. Jeffries, I'd like to meet you. So you can have the pyramids. Let's meet. Now he thought he could meet me personally and have information to put the nails on my coffin. Because the biggest attack ever waged against a scholar because of the electronic capability was waged against me. But we used that capability to go everywhere. We didn't run and hide. And one reason why I didn't have to run and hide, because when the incidents came up about the struggle, we were in Africa. And my wife was there with me. When we called home and everything was going crazy at City College in New York, I said, get somebody on the phone. I'm going to call back in half an hour. Can let me know what's happening. So I called back. Brother Smalls was there. He said that, yeah, you're being attacked as the worst person in the history of the world, and they're calling for your hide. I said, I got 10 more days in Africa. I ain't worried about coming home now to deal with this insanity. Just like you can tell Menelik, there ain't nothing he can say or do that's going to have me deal with his insanity. But I know I'm up against systems. The systems that put the army in place, the system that put the president in place, the system that destroyed African leaders, etc. So that's where we have to put our focus, not on our personal little circumstances, etc. So Koch invited me down to his office, and my brother and I rolled down with 2 big boxes of books. I thought the dude was seriously interested in getting the knowledge. And he asked me these questions, and we answered them. After a while, when it got so hot, he said, I got to go. Here's a man begging me to come down to his office. And now he got to go. But I was on a roll, so I kept kicking him in the butt for the next, I don't know how many minutes. Dr. Jeffries, you got a show and tell. The African Education of Mayor Koch, a CD. And nobody took on the most important Jewish leader in America who could tell President Carter, we don't want you to come to New York because you're not favorable to Israel. This is me with the knowledge, with the Diaspora. I wanted to give him, I bought hundreds of dollars worth of books thinking that this was a serious attempt to get information. Because I said, if he has the information, then it can be seen as part of our legacy that we have to claim and not as part of any anti-Semitism. I said, give it to the Jewish scholars, let them bring out the information. But anti-Semitism is a weapon that's used to help Jews fight the larger systems. Just like we have to use Pan-Africanism as a weapon to fight the larger systems that are coming at us. And unfortunately, the larger systems are coming from not just white folks.
Black folks.
They're going to come from, well, the black folks who want to keep things quiet. Their role is to keep us quiet. But you have people coming from the Middle East who've been using oil since the 70s in a systemic way to perpetuate their power and devastate ours. The Saudis have been financing that Wahhabi religious tradition all over Western Africa, and they've been paying people hundreds of millions of dollars to adopt the tradition, and that's leading to not a flowering of Islam, but a flowering of their version of Wahhabism, Islam. We got to have a systems analysis. And so, once you have it, you can begin to make the right decisions and in terms of what you need to do. Mayor Koch, instead of him taking the information, taking it to his scholars, he just decided to ignore me. Begging me to come down so he didn't have nothing to say for a year and 3 months. But when we thought we won the curriculum struggle in they asked me to evaluate the curriculum with a team of other people in 1988. We came up with the document, A Curriculum of Inclusion, 1989. And for the next 2 years, 90, 91, they was kicking my butt until they decided that this truth about Africa is going to be put into the curriculum. So let's create hysteria and massive insanity around it. So that's why they decided to single me out and to put all that mess out there. But they singled out the right person. Nobody was more prepared to deal with than myself. Nobody was prepared to continue this fight to the end. We've got to understand our history and make it work for us. This is Mama Jeffries with her grands. One of them wanted to be a ball player, the youngest one, and an artist. The other one wanted to be a ball player, baseball player, and a phys ed teacher. This is their rites of passage in the Nile Valley. They were 12 and 14. The oldest one is now a congressman in these United States of America. Went to NYU Law School, graduated at the top of the class, was the valedictorian speaker at graduation. That's Hakeem Jeffries. The other one went to Morehouse, but he didn't become the traditional Morehouse name. Our family has a tradition of service and commitment. And so Hassan was the one who went in the South, in Lowndes County, and came up with the book, Wadu. He's now a professor at Ohio State. And where are they? They are in the Great Lodge of the Great Luxor Lodge. This is where Africans combine the mysteries of the universe with the spirituality that every individual has to master in order for him to do his work. So I'm saying that we've got these traditions. We've got to master them and make them work for ourselves. And then the work of Wadu and others will really make some sense. Dr. Clark said it best. Our brother Mukasa came up with the term Black Power. His partner, Kwame Ture, carried it around the world. So there's work that these brothers and sisters have done, and it's unfinished. Dr. Clark's work, Notes for an African World Revolution, Africans at the Crossroads. Unfinished Revolution of Nkrumah, Unfinished Revolution of Marcus Garvey, Unfinished Revolution of Lumumba, Unfinished Revolution of Malcolm X. And you could say the Unfinished Revolution of Harriet Tubman, Unfinished Revolution of Fannie Lou Hamer, Unfinished Revolution of your grandmother and grandfather. We've got work to do. And there's no need to be depressed and think that it can't be done. If our people could suffer in enslavement and the devastation that it represented and save the day for us, and now we have these blessings, then we have to come up with a formula to pass it on to those who are coming from us. But it's not going to be easy. When I did the thing on South Africa, I found that South Africa's power, the white folks, is controlled by secret society called the Broederbond. When you organize for power, you don't organize to go on the stage and tell folks what you're doing. You organize behind the scenes. You have rituals. You have other processes. The struggle in South Africa was dominated after World War II by the Afrikaner peoples who set up a parallel system similar to the Nazis. African people were not considered human. The lands would take it from them. That's what we have to see apartheid as a dehumanizing process. And the resistance that took place to deal with it is correct. It came indigenously from the Africans because you didn't have to, everybody knew about the warriors that came out of the Zulu and culture. But they also got inspiration from us who have resisted in the New World, in America, the West Indies, and Brazil. So there's a family relationship of creating a new mindset, which is what I'm trying to talk about. A secret society, a society of secrets. The Boule is not a secret society. Everybody knows it exists. Everybody knows who's the membership of it. They got rituals. But the Masons are not a secret society. They're a society of secrets. They're registered, et cetera, et cetera. People giving you a handshake to let you know that they're a fellow traveler. Africans in this nation, Ivory Coast, created a secret society inspired by the Rosicrucian movement. the miracle of Ivory Coast comes out of organizing economics, politics, and culture, but having that culture wrapped around a society of secrets where the leadership could plan. Guinea attempted to put a society of secrets in place. Sekou Touré was plagued by invasions from the Portuguese, and each time it occurred, then he didn't know who to trust around him. Sekou Touré attempted to create the village. Houphouët-Boigny attempted to create the village. Kwame Nkrumah attempted to recreate the village and modernize it. That's the connection between these disparate individuals. One coming from the French tradition considered a neo-colonialist, one coming from the French tradition considered a revolutionary, one coming from the English tradition. Sekou Touré's attempt to create the village was called Le Village No, because it was revolutionary, but what Sekou attempted to do, Village Moderne, was to take the traditional African village, where the youngsters learned to work the skills of building the thatched roofs, agriculture and whatnot. You combine traditional knowledge with modern knowledge. And I'm in the mountains where Kwame Touré and Miriam Makeba lived. In Galba. I was in a work camp, leading a work camp in Mamou in Guinea in 63. In 64 and 5, I was back. I can remember watching a United Nations observer team watch an 11-year-old Guinea young boy teach an 8-year-old the mathematics of the space era. They were there to verify it. I was there to bear witness. So Sekou was combining the traditional knowledge and understanding with the modern technology. In the village, I forgot what it was. That same type of village thing was also in Senegal. Our work camp in 62 in Senegal was the village. It was called the Chantier École. The École is school and Chantier is workshop. And they were training the young people how to appreciate the traditional and how to use it in context of the modern. And Nkrumah devised a whole new method of building a new city. And that was his dream. So he was expanding the village beyond the concept of a village to a modern city. And that's the city that became Tema, the new city, industrial city, the new port, the dam that was built. So I'm saying our brothers had vision. And at each time there was obstacles and there was blockage, either coming from internally, the ancients didn't want it, the old people didn't want these changes, or externally, the colonial masters didn't want to move out of the way, or they wanted to throw the monkey wrench in, because if any of these experiments had worked, it would have created a new Africa. It did work in Tanzania. Nyerere created the Ujamaa villages and a whole other concept of working together. So I'm saying when we look at this history, let's not just look at the political players or the political parties or the revolutionaries. Let's look at the whole process. And then we can see where we can fit in. We can recreate the village around our own families, the extended family. Instead of saying these families ain't going to do nothing, they're all into the church. You figure out how you can get into the church or be a key part of what they want to do so you can move them along the road where the enlightenment can occur. So that's the message that we want to be able to say. The state of the race is that there's difficulties. The state of the race is that there's potentiality. The state of the race is that if we don't organize ourselves, nobody else is going to organize us. The state of the race is, as Malcolm said, if everything else fails to organize black folks, conditions will. And certainly we have those conditions that need to force us to organize our people. Just leave you with this one thing, and then we can have others participating and whatnot. Black folks are afraid of black women when they get together. You know, look at this girl in the back. What are they looking at, brother? You got one black man or two amongst these dozens of African women. But where was this at? This was in July in Accra. What is it about? It's about the mayors of the globe where African people are. They formed the Global Alliance of Black Mayors and Leaders. And this brother here, he's the head of the black mayors in America. But I told him, I said, brother, you need to buy this and take it home. He said, if I take this home and my wife sees me with all these women, not only will we not have a black mayor leadership, but these are women of all stations, and they were part of this. So what I'm trying to say, the good news is that the Renaissance is here. The symbol of the Renaissance was given to us by the president of Senegal. And people are saying, Dr. J, are you losing your sense of manhood? You become a bag man? And so I say, yep, because the bag that I've been taking around the world is here. And this is what I want to leave you with, that we have the potential of transforming our world. The president of Senegal, who is not the most radical of our leaders, but he was asked by the president of South Africa, the president of Nigeria, and others to create a symbol that would represent the new era. And so he created this, had created this monument. The Koreans helped to build it. It was designed by Africans. It was purposely designed to represent the new era. It's on a volcano, a dormant volcano in Senegal. It represents our future. It is the rise of the black man, and certainly the black man is on his knees and needs to rise. Black man is in the prison with his drawers hanging off his ankles. Black man has been run out of the families. Black man is in gangs. Black man is interacting with each other in terms of rap and all of this and that, and not building the families. So we need to change the trajectory of the black man. This is the black man rising. And he's not rising by himself. He's rising holding on to his rock, his foundation, the black woman. And they are rising together and holding up to the future is the child. And that child is not pointing north to Europe, where we usually look to sustenance. Or, in this case, we look to white America. That child is not pointing east to the new boys on the block, China, India, Japan. China, that child is not pointing southeast to Mecca. It's not even pointing south to the rest of the African continent. That child is pointing across the Atlantic Ocean to the New World Africa. It is the New World Africa linked with the African on the continent that will produce the new era. And we can call it by whatever name we want to call it. But it will be truly a new era if this wedding of the continent can take place. Now, the statue by design is larger than the Statue of Liberty. By design, it's larger than Jesus the Redeemer overlooking Rio. You can take an elevator through the powerful thighs of the black man, his backbone, and into his mind and look out on the world. You can go inside, and there our history is, from the beginning of humankind to today. You can have meetings. Heads of state met in there a couple of years ago to say that 2017 would be a special period of unity for African peoples. 28 heads of state met inside. Inside is the exhibit of the work of Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, put together by Cheikh Anta Diop's oldest son, Mbaki, and his white mother, the French woman. Inside is the African origin of humankind millions of years ago. Inside is the evidence of Africans, large-brained Africans, Homo sapiens sapiens, 200,000 years ago. Inside is those Africans who built the pyramids. Inside is the image of Garvey and all of our great leaders. In fact, Marcus Garvey's son Judas, the MD, and myself are standing in front of the portraits of, above our heads, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and Kwame Nkrumah. So I'm saying a lot has already been put in place, but none of us know about it. Wadu's role is to try to get folks to know that there are things that are directing us where we need to go. When I went to St. Louis, the brother out there, who is no longer the traditional Christian pastor, he's created the concept of the village, so that the values can be, this is Dr. Hagen. So I'm saying that it's up to us to come up with the formula and the success, and the pathway has been laid out. People like Dr. Sa have an understanding that we need to become our own healers. People like Francis Cresswell said we need to develop our own mind. People like Malcolm said we need to develop a parallel organization next to the international organizations being developed by African Shuffle. Haile Selassie said, I'll provide the place and I'll provide the space. You come to Ethiopia and you unify the African world, these new nations. Malcolm said, the African nation in America is very special, and we need to organize ourselves to complement the African organization of the continent. So the OAAU was formed to be the complement to the OAU. The OAU is split between different ideologies, so it's not moving like it should. And that's to be expected because you have 50+ nations, you have thousands of ethnic groups, and it's a difficult process. No fiat, no decree by Mugabe or anybody else is going to unify those nations and those cultures. It's going to take time. It took a long time for us to get these divisions. It's going to take a long time for us to find a real unity. But there's a pathway that has already been charted. And so, as we go forth and try to make our way, understanding that we need a superhighway into the future, those bridges that brought us across have to be respected. That little church, during slavery, was what they call a bush harbor. They was out in the bushes praying. Their own concept of God. It was not a white, blonde, blue-eyed Jesus in the bushes. And after slavery, my grandfather's people set up churches for their own survival. Schools, training centers for the youth. They trained them to be carpenters, they trained them to be wheelwrights, trained them to be. So we got to understand the significance of our history and make it work for us. But it's not going to be easy. I'll leave you with two other things in reference to Wadu has an enormous role to play, but it's not. The Africans in the New World, in the Caribbean, in Brazil, in Central America, and here, we have to come up with how we're going to fit into this sixth region that has been created for us. That's a formula for us to unify. They don't have a clue on what's happening in America. They come here to have a good time and possibly make some connections. Those who, like Dr. Chichinya, have been with us have a broader perspective because they have lived the experience. So as we organize Wadu, and we have what we call the historical diaspora, that's us coming out of enslavement. And then you have the contemporary diaspora, those Africans who have come here over the last 20, 30 years and have lived among us. There is a need for each group to have its separate entity, but they have to find a formula to work together. So that's what can be suggested, Dr. Chichinya, as we talk about what Wadu can do. You can't have Africans coming from here, coming here from elsewhere and not having them relate to the indigenous population. Already, they're marrying. My nephew's, Hakim's wife is from the Dominican Republic. My godchildren, Omar, he has a wife from Nigeria. His sister Kenya has a brother from the Caribbean. So we've got to see that there is a connection. We've got to make it part of our strength and not part of our weakness. We even have to take the world map back. Come here, brother. Stand up here a little bit. White folks have lost it all. They've lost the white, brown, blue-eyed Jesus. They lost God. They lost the chosen peopleness. And then we really kicked them in the ass when we took the map. Even the map ain't right. When I used to go to corporate structure, and I set a trap for these folks because they didn't want to hear this black history. So I said, well, I'm sure all of you know the map. You may not know black history. So tell me what you see. They say, that's terrible. That's a distortion. Look at that big Africa. It's 800,000 square miles. Here's Greenland. China is 3 million. Greenland is 5 or 6 times larger than China. Something's wrong there. Africa is 11 plus million square miles. And on some maps, Greenland is as large as Africa. There's something wrong there. This is white supremacy, and this is the computerized knowledge of the world. But let me leave you with this. When I went to Europe to translate Shekinah Diop's book, I was at the World Council of Churches. I passed this map 250 days. I passed it. Going in and coming out. Almost 500 times I passed this map. And it wasn't until my wife came to visit me that I looked at it seriously. And I understood what it was. You know how deep this is? Here I am with one of the most advanced education knowledge, one of the most advanced feeling for our people.
Run all, warrior king! Run all, let you know you can! When you